In a 2022 interview, while explaining the lyrics to one of his most successful tracks, Romantic Homicide, artist D4vd described the song in a reflective way. He said it was about storytelling, how the lyrics build up to the moment where she died in the back of my mind. He clarified that he didn't mean it literally, he didn't kill anyone. Instead, it was about the emotional death of a connection that once mattered to him. Reflecting on this now, some have noted that his description seems to echo certain recent events associated with the artist. Even more striking to many fans, the music video for the song premiered on September 7, 2022, the same date as Celeste Rivas Hernandez's birthday. This coincidence has led to online speculation about whether the timing carried symbolic meaning or was purely unintentional, though no connection has been confirmed. The central focus of public discussion surrounding the D4vd video case is centered on his online presence, especially his music and social media activity. Many internet users have examined the album Withered, which D4vd once described as my story from my experiences. One piece of attention-grabbing evidence often mentioned is the invisible string theory interlude, where he reportedly used a female voice that listeners believe belonged to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, altered to sound older. In that recording, the voice can be heard saying, "I loved you before I existed, and I love you even when I die." When asked about the voice, D4vd declined to reveal the person's identity, citing copyright reasons, which some followers found questionable. In addition, his activity on TikTok, particularly older reposted clips, has fueled online speculation about his mindset, with some fans interpreting the tone of his posts as emotional or possessive. Certain lyrics from his other songs, such as Ghost, have also been dissected for meaning, including the line, "Why can't I hear your heartbeat?" which some interpret as darkly symbolic. The situation involving Celeste Rivas Hernandez and the artist D4vd has become a major topic of debate on social media, with users frequently referencing the philosophical concept known as Occam's razor, or the principle of simplicity. This principle suggests that when two explanations fit the facts equally well, the simpler one is usually preferred. However, in this particular case, applying that principle is difficult because, as many observers note, much of what is discussed remains based on speculation. With many claims still unverified, separating fact from assumption has proven challenging. Authorities have not officially confirmed any personal connection between D4vd and Celeste, despite the circulation of alleged screenshots and videos online. Some online theories even suggest the presence of another individual referred to as a second Celeste or an older Celeste, though these remain unsubstantiated. The way the investigation has been handled publicly has only added to the confusion, as no official confirmation of any violent event has been released. The Los Angeles Police Department and the Medical Examiner's Office have maintained a notable level of silence regarding this situation. Officials are not describing it as a criminal investigation, but rather as a general death inquiry. Authorities explained that it could take several weeks or even months to determine whether any wrongdoing was involved. This cautious approach has drawn public attention, as many online commentators have questioned how someone could have ended up inside a car trunk without assistance. The body was reportedly found inside D4vd's impounded vehicle, which had been parked for roughly 3 weeks. Conflicting early reports have added confusion to the case, with some outlets describing the discovery differently and offering inconsistent details about the condition in which the remains were found. As of mid to late September 2025, D4vd's legal status remained unchanged, leading to ongoing speculation from both those who believe in his innocence and those who doubt it. Authorities have not filed any charges, and D4vd has not been publicly identified as a suspect, detained, or arrested. His spokesperson initially stated that the artist was aware of the situation and was cooperating with investigators. After performing at a scheduled show on September 9, he suddenly paused his world tour and refrained from making further public comments. All communication thereafter was handled through his attorney rather than his public representative. 2 days after Celeste was officially identified, investigators searched the Hollywood Hills home that D4vd had been renting for about $20,000 a month through his manager. Witnesses reported seeing authorities leaving the property with several evidence bags and electronic devices. After the search took place, D4vd reportedly moved out of his Hollywood Hills residence. From a law enforcement perspective, even though no arrest has been made, one expert suggested with high confidence that D4vd remains the primary person of interest. Due to the ongoing silence from authorities, much of the public's attention has turned toward his digital presence, which many believe may hold clues to understanding the situation. His music has become a major point of focus. D4vd once said about his 2025 album Withered, "It's my first real album. It's me, all my experiences. It's all about love. It's authentic and raw and truly me this time." These comments have led listeners to interpret some of his lyrics and sound clips as deeply personal reflections, or even emotional confessions through art. Particular attention has been given to the invisible string theory interlude, which online discussions claim features a modified female voice believed to belong to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. In that section, the voice can be heard saying, "I loved you before I existed, and I love you even when I die." David later stated that he could not reveal who the voice was for copyright reasons, though some social media users viewed that explanation as unconvincing. In addition, his TikTok reposts have been widely analyzed, with certain fans suggesting that they reveal patterns of jealousy or emotional dependency. Some of these clips discuss themes of wanting exclusive attention from a partner or avoiding outside interaction, which has fueled further speculation online. The wide scope of David's online activity has led internet users to closely examine his digital history, as this has become the main way for the public to form theories in the absence of official updates from authorities. One of the most circulated ideas among online analysts is that the female voice heard in the invisible string theory interlude was intentionally modified to sound older. This alleged audio alteration forms the basis of claims that David might have been trying to obscure the true identity or age of the speaker. Some listeners believe the voice carries emotional and linguistic traits suggesting youthfulness. The conversation begins with a soft and vulnerable question from the girl, "Why don't you hold my hand anymore?" It then shifts toward a discussion about destiny with the line, "Have you ever heard of the invisible string theory?" The flow of the dialogue appears uneven, leading some to believe the recording may have been edited before its release. Analysts argue that the way the girl expresses herself, both in tone and choice of words, conveys the perspective of someone quite young. Her explanation of the invisible string theory is interpreted as a romanticized and idealistic view of destined love, reflecting the emotional intensity of early adolescence. Many commenters believe the recording may have been made during a time when the speaker, thought to be Celeste Rivas Hernandez, was still in her teenage years and experiencing the deep emotions of a first love. The contrast between the adjusted tone of the girl's voice and the emotional depth of the dialogue has led many online observers to believe that David may have intentionally modified the audio to conceal the true nature of his connection with her. According to analysts, the girl's phrasing and emotional tone reveal a level of youthful innocence that remains evident despite any audio changes. Her words are seen as an overly romanticized version of the invisible string theory, a concept that describes how two people are destined to meet and stay connected. Listeners often point out that her way of expressing affection feels like that of a very young person experiencing love for the first time. This interpretation has fueled the idea that the conversation could have taken place when the speaker, believed by many to be Celeste, was still in her early teens. At that time, she appeared to be deeply caught up in the belief of a destined and everlasting love, a sentiment commonly seen in youthful relationships. The most emotionally charged part of the recording is the girl's statement about loving David before and beyond existence. Her words, "I loved you before I existed, and I love you even when I am gone," have since taken on a haunting meaning, especially because the song was released months before Celeste's passing. The line turned what might have been a creative interlude into something the public perceives as heartbreakingly personal. When the girl repeated "I love you," David's silence in response drew intense scrutiny. Many listeners interpreted this silence as emotional acknowledgement rather than artistic restraint, suggesting that he understood the depth and finality of her words. His later explanation, that the person speaking in the recording is no longer in my life, only fueled more discussion online. To many, it sounded less like a description of a fictional voice actor and more like a real person who had once been part of his life. This perception was reinforced by the way David spoke about the situation with calm detachment, framing the absence of the girl as part of the inspiration behind his project Withered. The result is that what might have been interpreted as art has instead become the emotional centerpiece of a much larger and more troubling narrative in the public eye. David explained that the irony behind the situation lay in the fact that the person who once believed so strongly in the idea of an unbreakable invisible string was now gone. To him, that absence symbolized how even the deepest emotional connections could fade, despite people's belief that such bonds are eternal. This realization became the emotional foundation for his album's somber atmosphere. The title Withered itself was chosen to represent decline, closure, and the end of a cycle, much like a rose reaching the end of its bloom. David described the project as both a continuation and a farewell, a creative way to mark the closing of a chapter in his life. The invisible string theory interlude played a vital role in reinforcing that message, that this was the conclusion of something once meaningful, not the beginning of something new. This sense of finality extended into several tracks on the album, particularly those with reflective tones such as Afterlife and Ghost. The closing song, Afterlife, was meant to be the symbolic ending, the emotional weight that tied the project together. David later explained that his silence during the moment when the girl said "I love you" was intentional, meant to set up the transition to the next track. Is this really love? Beyond the artistic reasoning, David said he wanted listeners to feel immersed, as though they were inside his thoughts while the music unfolded. He described the purpose of the interlude as creating a vivid, almost cinematic space where the audience could understand his mindset during the creative process. By including what he called an authentic conversation, even one that may have been slightly altered for production reasons, David claimed he was offering a deeper level of realism and storytelling. However, the deeply personal nature of the interlude, combined with his later reluctance to clarify the identity of the girl's voice, raised many questions online. To some, his silence on the matter seemed less like artistic discretion and more like an attempt to avoid direct explanation. As a result, what David presented as emotional authenticity became a central point of public speculation and debate. When questioned in an interview about the identity of the person whose voice appeared in the interlude discussing fate and mortality, David gave an answer that left both analysts and viewers confused. He stated, "I cannot reveal who the voice belongs to because of copyright." This explanation was immediately seen as unusual and legally questionable. Experts pointed out that his reasoning didn't align with how copyright law actually works and that it appeared to be a deliberate way to avoid giving a direct answer. Observers described his response as strange, especially coming from a public figure who might be expected to clarify such a situation clearly. The idea that copyright could prevent him from saying a person's name was viewed as illogical, since copyright typically governs how a recording is used commercially, not whether someone can identify the person speaking. If David had obtained permission to use the voice, as he claimed, there would be no legal reason preventing him from mentioning who it was. Furthermore, if the voice belonged to a real individual, that person would still be able to recognize themselves in the recording once the album was released, regardless of whether their name was mentioned publicly. Because of this, many commentators argued that David's explanation only made the situation appear more suspicious. Critics noted that he could have easily provided a simple, harmless clarification, such as saying the voice came from a past relationship or a friend, without any negative implications. The fact that he instead relied on a complex and legally weak justification led many to believe that the truth was far more sensitive than he wanted to admit. The general online consensus became that his copyright defense was a poorly constructed attempt to conceal the real identity of the speaker. The speculation deepened further when people connected this secrecy to the widely held belief that the girl's voice in the recording may have been Celeste's. If true, revealing her identity would dramatically change public perception of both the song and the album, especially since the interlude contained the haunting line "I love you even when I." A line that gained chilling new meaning after Celeste was later found. Many concluded that David's insistence on keeping the identity secret was a way to protect himself from the serious personal and legal fallout that could follow such a revelation. The album Withered 2025 marks a significant milestone in David's music career. It reached number 13 on the Billboard 200 and collected over 500 million streams on Spotify shortly after its release. David stated that this is his first complete project, setting it apart from his earlier works. He described Withered as deeply genuine and emotionally honest, reflecting his entire life. David confirmed that the album is entirely about him, drawing from his relationships and personal struggles over the past 2 years. It's the first time he has openly acknowledged that his songs are rooted in real experiences. David encouraged listeners to experience the album from beginning to end, much like reading a book where each track is a separate chapter. His goal was for the audience to feel immersed in a vivid emotional landscape, with moments that reveal his mindset while creating the music. He explained that the project isn't a debut but a continuation, and in some ways, a farewell to a version of himself. He described Withered as the conclusion of a personal chapter. The album's imagery revolves around roses and the symbolic red string. For David, the rose represents beauty intertwined with pain, the duality of being both delicate and capable of causing hurt. The concept of withered reflects decline, transformation, and the natural end of a cycle. Overall, the album carries a sense of closure rather than a new beginning. While it includes themes of renewal, David said that by the final song, Afterlife, the journey feels complete. He called that track the emotional finale, representing a symbolic farewell. During a live performance in Houston, David became visibly emotional while performing Afterlife, leaving many in the audience touched by the intensity of the moment. Houston holds a special place in David's journey, as it is the city where his music career first took shape, even though he was born and raised in Queens, New York. When he became emotional during a live performance there, many fans initially believed it was a heartfelt "I made it" moment, celebrating his success and connection to the city. However, those who attended the show described the scene as unexpectedly intense. Many online viewers later suggested that his emotional reaction stemmed from a mix of factors: the song's meaning, the memories tied to Houston, and his recent experiences. The breakdown was widely seen as a display of inner turmoil connected to past events rather than a simple celebration. While promoting the album, David posted a striking photo on Instagram that quickly spread online. The image showed him taking a selfie while wearing a white shirt marked with red stains against a black background. The caption promoted a special Withered vinyl edition that included custom-designed shirts made by him. Shortly after the release, this limited edition merchandise was removed from his website. Among the album's closing tracks, Ghost and Afterlife stood out for their emotional tone and haunting lyrics. Listeners and online analysts have intensely discussed Ghost, interpreting it as a song about overwhelming guilt, emotional loss, and the struggle to separate reality from imagination. One of the most talked about lines in Ghost is "Why can't I hear your heartbeat?" A lyric that many see as symbolizing the pain of separation or the realization of loss. It is followed by just a dream, don't wake me up," reinforcing the idea of denial and escapism, as if the narrator wishes to remain in a dream rather than face the truth. When reflecting on the entire 14-track project, David explained that while there is an element of renewal present throughout, Afterlife ultimately confirms that the journey has reached its conclusion. He wanted listeners to experience the album as though they were reading a storybook, with the final track serving as the closing chapter. David also shared that he deliberately included songs and interludes that carry the feeling of farewells and closure, reinforcing the message that this project represents an ending rather than a beginning. The idea of the afterlife itself appears repeatedly throughout Withered, as David explores themes of love, loss, and emotional endurance. In one lyric, he states, "You don't believe in the afterlife, but just know I've seen it," suggesting an intimate connection to the concept. The lyrics of Afterlife delve into feelings of disillusionment, betrayal, and an intense devotion that seems to extend beyond ordinary emotional limits. Lines such as "My mother told me he would lie" hint at ignored warnings, while "The devil told me you were good for me" reflects the narrator's internal conflict, choosing harmful affection over wisdom. The lyric "When I'm gone, I'll love you" from the afterlife illustrates a deep emotional attachment that transcends physical existence. Other verses, like "Something's missing from inside of me," and "Real love is not for sale," reinforce the pain of emptiness and the desire for something pure and genuine. The emotional weight of Afterlife became even more striking during David's live performance in Houston, where he was seen visibly overcome with emotion. Some fans interpreted his breakdown as a moment of gratitude and reflection, given that his musical journey began in Houston when he moved there at the age of 13. However, many online viewers describe the scene as unusually intense and emotionally charged. Many listeners believe that the artist's visible emotional breakdown reflected deep distress connected to the themes within his album. The track "You Left Me First," featured on David's Withered album, is described by him as his first fully realized and emotionally raw project, drawing directly from his life over the past 2 years, including his relationships and personal struggles. At its core, the song explores the narrator's feelings of jealousy and heartbreak. One standout lyric, "Falling deeper into jealousy 'cause I can't help the thought of you with someone else," captures the depth of emotional conflict driving the song. It portrays the narrator as being consumed by thoughts of a former partner moving on, interpreting it as a personal wound. Another lyric, "You left me at my best, I loved you at your worst. How ironic is that when you left me first, it never makes sense to me," reveals his sense of confusion and pain. The narrator seems to believe that his commitment should have guaranteed the relationship's survival, which makes the separation feel especially unfair. The track closes with the line "I know the truth," suggesting a revelation that marks the turning point of the narrator's emotional turmoil. Many online listeners speculate that the intense jealousy described in "You Left Me First" might have been inspired by a real-life situation involving a person referred to as Goose. This interpretation comes from unverified online messages in which a woman named Celeste reportedly mentioned someone by that name, leading fans to connect the dots between the song's emotions and David's real experiences. According to online discussions, Celeste reportedly told a friend that she regretted an encounter with another person, saying she had been intoxicated and only went through with it after feeling pressured. Soon after sending those messages, she allegedly texted again, saying, "Do not text back. He came back. He's crying. Do not text me." This sudden reaction led many to believe that David had discovered the messages about what had happened with a person referred to as Gus. Viewers interpret this as the emotional breaking point that intensified David's feelings of jealousy and possessiveness. Some online discussions suggest that this event may have influenced the lyrics expressing the narrator's inability to bear the thought of a loved one with someone else. Later, David shared a TikTok video with the caption, "Every guy's personal nightmare is watching his girlfriend defend another man to him," which many connected to the same situation. At the end of the song, there is an audio note that listeners believe includes Celeste's altered voice, expressing guilt and sorrow. "I sound so stupid right now. I've been so selfish and I can't stop thinking about you and what I did and how it's affecting everything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I really am sorry." This final recording has often been interpreted as a form of apology, reinforcing the emotional climax of the story and explaining the narrator's deep emotional turmoil. The song Where Did It Go Wrong was released by David in December 2024, near the end of the timeline that many fans associate with his experiences involving Celeste. Like other tracks on the Withered album, David described this piece as deeply personal, drawn from his real relationships and emotional struggles over the past 2 years, making it, in his words, super authentic and super raw. The lyrics of Where Did It Go Wrong have drawn widespread attention for their portrayal of intense control and self-centered behavior. One of the most discussed lines is, "I don't mean to be conceited, but I'm the reason you're still breathing." Though the narrator denies arrogance, this statement conveys a belief that the other person's well-being depends entirely on him. This idea shifts the relationship from one of affection to one marked by dominance and emotional control. Many online commentators interpret this lyric as symbolic of the narrator's need for power and validation, suggesting he viewed himself as an irreplaceable presence in Celeste's life. Other lines in the song, such as "Where did it go wrong with you? I don't belong with you. It's a tragedy. I really thought you were meant for me," reveal a tone of disappointment and self-pity. The repeated focus on deception and heartbreak, as in "How could you lie to me? Every kiss put a cavity between my lips," portrays the narrator as consumed by his own pain over what he perceives as betrayal. Some analyses suggest that the lyric "I'm the reason you're still breathing" could represent an unhealthy emotional dependency, reflecting the narrator's attempt to make the other person feel bound to him for protection or affection. The song's release date in December 2024 corresponds with a time when Celeste was reportedly facing personal difficulties, while David frequently shared emotional posts about relationship struggles on his social media accounts. Toward the end of the track, listeners can hear a soft female voice saying, "You're special, David," which mirrors the spoken snippets woven throughout the Withered album, adding to the hauntingly personal tone of the project. One online comment discusses the unsettling tone of the track, noting how the narrator seems obsessed with a young woman who may have been trying to distance herself from his unstable behavior. The comment highlights how he attempted to manipulate her emotionally, convincing her that they were meant to be together no matter what. The lyrics, which suggest a desire to fix or correct the woman through his own means, are often interpreted as signs of possessive and controlling behavior that may have intensified when she tried to break free from his influence. An examination of David's social media activity, particularly his numerous TikTok reposts, reveals a recurring theme of jealousy, emotional dependence, and control. Many online users view these patterns as evidence of an unhealthy obsession rather than a typical romantic attachment. One widely discussed repost contained the phrase, "Need a girl who doesn't talk to anyone on this earth." This post has drawn strong criticism, as it reflects a wish for complete emotional isolation of the partner, implying that she should rely entirely on him and be detached from all others. Many interpret this as a troubling sign of manipulation and control toward Celeste. This repost aligns with other posts that show similar tendencies toward extreme jealousy and possessiveness. Some of his shared quotes reflect fantasies of retaliation or anger toward anyone who might show interest in his partner. Another repost suggested that their relationship would never end and that she would belong only to him, no matter what happened. Collectively, these posts portray a mindset of obsession and emotional control that many viewers find deeply concerning. David once shared a list describing what he considered forms of emotional disloyalty, such as keeping secret conversations, turning to others when the relationship faced challenges, or even forming friendships with people his partner might find attractive. This list reflected an expectation of total attention and loyalty, where any external connection was viewed as a potential threat. His reposts often revealed an intense concern with his partner's interactions, showing frustration over brief replies or delayed responses. In one of the shared quotes, he wrote, "Imagine talking to other people when you have me. Are you serious?" Many online observers noted that his TikTok reposts painted a picture of someone struggling with deep jealousy and an extreme fear of rejection. The sheer number and content of these reposts strengthen the theory that David displayed obsessive behavior that appeared to escalate over time. His online activity, particularly the reposted TikTok content, became a key element in the online community's discussion, with many believing it reflected a disturbing pattern of control and emotional instability. David himself once described his album Withered as super authentic and raw, inspired by his personal relationships and challenges. Many see his social media history as a window into that same emotional state. His reposts often emphasized possessiveness and anger toward perceived romantic rivals, expressing resentment or fantasies of dominance. One particularly alarming repost featured a video where a man was chopping food, accompanied by the caption suggesting how he would react if he saw his partner talking to another man. This was widely interpreted as an unhealthy expression of jealousy. Similar themes appeared across other posts, including exaggerated comments about wanting harm to come to anyone who showed interest in his partner. These repeated messages, which go far beyond typical heartbreak or frustration, depict a mindset obsessed with exclusivity and control. The references to aggressive imagery introduced a deeply unsettling tone that many viewers found indicative of severe emotional turmoil rather than ordinary relationship struggles. One of David's reposts included the phrase "pass me the Draco," a slang term for a small AK-style firearm. This alarming reference suggested a shift from emotional frustration to thoughts of serious aggression. These posts appeared alongside others promoting total control and isolation, including one saying he wanted a girl who doesn't interact with anyone on this earth. Collectively, these messages portrayed a mindset centered on dominance and obsession, where any outside interaction was treated as betrayal. Together with earlier posts involving violent imagery, these statements have been interpreted by online users as evidence of David's intense jealousy and inability to handle rejection. His digital activity revealed a disturbing pattern of possessiveness disguised as affection. One particularly revealing repost questioned whether his actions were truly controlling or simply acts of care. It asked, "Was I controlling, or did I just want respect? Was I controlling, or did I just care about you?" The message concluded, "Just because I care about you doesn't make me controlling." This self-justifying tone suggests an attempt to rationalize manipulation by presenting it as love or protection. Online users interpreted this repost as a clear reflection of David's unhealthy jealousy and controlling behavior, which many believe contributed to the tragedy. The message implies he justified his actions by blaming his partner's choices, shifting responsibility away from himself. This post, along with many others, forms part of what netizens call a digital gold mine of content revealing David's emotional instability and need for control. Although some argue his posts were meant to be edgy or artistic, others saw them as dark confessions from someone unable to handle rejection. A particularly controversial part of his album promotion involved the bloody shirt merchandise tied to Withered. David described the album as deeply personal and emotionally raw, focusing on endings and decay. The promo featured him posing with white shirts splattered with red paint to match the album's theme. Each shirt was sold for $35 and quickly went viral on social media. However, after later events, the merchandise was removed from his website. Many people found the imagery deeply unsettling in hindsight, as it appeared disturbingly close to real-life developments surrounding David at the time. The connection between the album's dark aesthetic and the events that followed left fans shocked and disturbed. David's Tesla, registered in Texas, was towed from a Hollywood Hills neighborhood after being left unattended for nearly 3 weeks. A neighbor told reporters the car had a large dent in the back that David never repaired, and when asked about it, he avoided giving details. This damage became the basis for one online theory suggesting a possible accidental event involving Celeste Rivas Hernandez. According to this speculation, the dent might indicate an unintended collision, after which panic led to poor decisions instead of seeking immediate help. Leaving the car untouched while continuing his tour was seen by some as a sign of avoidance rather than action. Observers have also noted that Celeste often hid her face in photos, particularly in images believed to feature her with David. Many think this was done intentionally to protect her privacy due to her young age or to keep their rumored relationship discreet. Screenshots from early 2023 show a girl thought to be Celeste covering most of her face with a blanket during a live stream. In another viral selfie, a girl beside David hid her face behind a designer purse, with only her eyebrows and curly hair visible, features fans associated with Celeste. During a concert, Celeste was reportedly seen backstage with David's younger brother, wearing a hood that covered most of her face. She appeared shy when she turned around after hearing someone call his name. Many online observers saw her constant attempts to hide her face as a sign of control and isolation. Some commenters expressed concern, saying Celeste seemed to live entirely in David's world, where she had to stay quiet and unseen. This fueled discussions that she may have been cut off from others and kept out of public view. The habit of covering her face became a way for people online to distinguish the younger Celeste from another woman with a similar name who appeared more openly. It led many to believe that whenever a girl with David covered her face, it was likely Celeste. Because there are so few clear photos of her, confirming her identity in later sightings has been very difficult. David's previously discussed 5-year career plan also drew attention. In an older interview, he said he aimed to reach major success in 3 years, retire in the 4th, and disappear completely in the 5th, living privately, away from the internet. This timeline, coinciding with when Celeste would have turned 18, has raised further questions among the online community. According to online discussions, Celeste's brother allegedly mentioned that David often promised to marry her when she turned 18. An Instagram account believed to be hers once posted a photo showing a diamond ring on her left hand. Many people online speculated that David's plan to retire and disappear from public life in 5 years was part of a promise he made about their future together. This connection between the ring, the supposed marriage plan, and his wish for isolation painted a picture of a possessive relationship, where he intended to withdraw both of them from public attention once she reached adulthood. Just days before Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found in David's impounded car, he posted a disturbing animated image on Instagram. The artwork featured a cat with a glowing brain being injected with needles, surrounded by pills. The timing and the imagery made many people uncomfortable, especially since the post appeared only 3 days before the tragic discovery. The caption read, "I start media training tomorrow, guys. Wish me luck," which was seen as darkly ironic. Viewers found it strange that he mentioned preparing for media training right before such a serious event became public. Some interpreted the post as David expressing inner turmoil, while others believed he was sarcastically acknowledging the need to manage his image before an upcoming crisis. The songs and spoken pieces from his Withered album are now seen as part of a larger emotional confession reflecting his unstable mindset. In the song Where Did It Go Wrong? The narrator shows an illusion of control with the line, "I don't mean to be conceited, but I'm the reason you're still here." The lyrics grow darker midway with metaphors like "I just bought a hammer, I'm trying to fix you," followed by self-awareness and "I might have a screw loose." Another track, Ghost, is often interpreted by listeners as reflecting loss and denial, with lines such as "Why can't I hear your heartbeat? And I might not have you, but I have your ghost," portraying deep obsession and grief. The album closes with Afterlife, which David described as representing a symbolic farewell, similar to a final goodbye. Throughout Withered, recurring themes of loss, control, and emotional collapse form a haunting pattern that many interpret as an artistic confession of internal chaos before tragedy struck. Meanwhile, discussions online have presented different theories surrounding the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, including the innocent frame and accident theories. It's important to note that, at the time of reporting, authorities have not named David as a suspect or made any arrests, and the medical examiner has only classified the situation as an ongoing death investigation. These alternative theories seek to explain the circumstances surrounding the discovery of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body and David's impounded Tesla while maintaining the belief in his possible innocence or reduced responsibility. The innocent and frame theory, mainly supported by a smaller group of David's fans, suggests that he had no harmful intent or direct role in her death. According to this theory, David was unaware of Celeste's real age, as she may have misrepresented it. Some of his friends claimed they believed she was 19 and studying at the University of Southern California. Supporters argue that David became an unfortunate victim of misunderstanding and tragic coincidence, where the young woman passed away in his car without his knowledge or involvement. Skeptics, however, question the credibility of the age deception claim, noting the number of unlikely coincidences it would require. Many online discussions claim that Celeste looked noticeably young, making it difficult to believe David was unaware of her real age. Some argued that while she might appear older in public settings, her true age would be clear in private conversations. Reports from neighbors and a former teacher mentioned Celeste had run away from home several times and was once brought back by police from Hollywood. This raised doubts about David's claim that he did not know she was underage. A softer version of the theory suggests David was involved but not in a violent way, that Celeste's passing may have been accidental or self-inflicted. According to this view, David's actions afterward were driven by panic and fear of losing his career. One interpretation speculates that Celeste might have suffered an accidental overdose, though there is no confirmed evidence she used any substances. Others point out that David's impounded Tesla had a large dent, leading to speculation of a possible accident. In one variation of the theory, it is suggested that a member of David's team may have hidden the body out of fear without telling him. However, this idea is questioned since it seems unlikely that no one would contact the police or that David would ignore the damage to his car. The fact that the vehicle remained parked for weeks points to confusion or panic. Supporters of the accidental theory believe David acted out of fear for his career, which was rapidly growing with major collaborations and success. They argue his emotional and protective behavior seen in past lyrics reflected attachment rather than violence, and that panic led to poor decisions after Celeste's sudden death. Others note that his silence after the discovery could have been legal advice to avoid mistakes. Both theories rely on speculation and limited evidence. The innocent frame theory struggles with Celeste's age and her history of running away, while the accidental theory still faces legal and moral contradictions. Most people online suspect David's involvement, but legally he remains innocent as the investigation continues. The case of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez and musician David remains deeply uncertain, often described as built on speculation rather than clear facts. Online discussions range from believing in David's innocence to theories of control and obsession. Legally, he has not been charged or arrested, but authorities still consider him the main person of interest due to the discovery of Celeste's body in his car and his decision to speak only through legal representatives. Law enforcement sources clarified that being uncharged does not mean he is not under scrutiny. His limited public response, confirming cooperation but avoiding further comment, has fueled debate. Many observers urge against romanticizing the case, reminding that the core issue is the victim's young age and the imbalance of power involved. Commentators emphasize that Celeste was a young teenager, not an adult, and warn against portrayals that make the situation seem like a tragic love story. Instead, they stress it reflects exploitation and control. The official investigation remains ongoing, with authorities maintaining silence while continuing to review all evidence. The Los Angeles Police Department and the Medical Examiner's Office have remained largely silent. The cause of death has not yet been determined, and the case is still officially listed as a general death investigation. Authorities stated that it could take weeks or months before any conclusions or charges are made. This uncertainty continues to fuel speculation online, with many connecting messages, screenshots, and song lyrics that suggest control and emotional dependency. To the public, the case represents multiple failures that may have allowed Celeste's tragedy to unfold unnoticed. While David's career moves forward, his legal future remains unclear, and the full truth of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death has yet to be revealed. Beyond the investigation, her story has become a painful reflection of how admiration can be mistaken for affection, and control can be disguised as care. Celeste was only 14, still discovering herself in a digital world that blurs safety and danger. What happened to her raises urgent questions about how society protects young people online, about boundaries, accountability, and the responsibility shared by parents, schools, platforms, and fans. In the end, Celeste's story is a reminder of how fragile young lives can be, and how real love never hides behind control or silence.